Hello and welcome to the first design direction with me, Joseph Berry, and in today's lesson we're going to be looking at Webflow interactions. Now first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to everyone that's watched the first video that I did on the Webflow live stream. I've had an enormous amount of people reach out to me and say how much they really learnt from that video, and asking me if I was going to do more. So today is about how I can actually start to push more content to you guys and start to show you some of the techniques and processes that I've been working with. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to Barry. He messaged me and he said, "Joe, look, I've seen this really cool interaction. How would you go about building this?" And I looked at it and I was like, "Yeah, this is quite cool." As I said, this is something that we can start off with, and we will gradually build. So going forward, if any of you guys see anything that you think could be of interest to me, fire it over, put it in the Webflow group, and let's see where we can go, and let's see what you guys want to learn, or find out what you guys have seen that you want to find out how it's built, or find out techniques. So in these lessons, what we're really going to be doing is we're going to be kind of giving you the right tools to be able to look at certain interactions and work out how they've been built, and then be able to implement that into Webflow. So I'm going to kind of run through these different processes to get us to that stage, and I think that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. Let's have a look. Let's see what we're going to start off with, and hope you enjoy it. Please don't forget, give it a thumbs up if you like it, and also subscribe if you want to see more tutorials from myself. So let's do it. So, getting on to the example that was sent over by Barry, moves.basic agency. It's a really nice site. Got some really interesting interactions on it. That typography is really nice, and it just works really well. But it's as we get to this section here where we're starting to get something really interesting going on. Now, currently the way that this works is with a click and hold function, and this has been built out with SVG clipping masks, and then when you click and hold via a click function, it fills up this bar. Now we're not actually going to be looking at that interaction. What we're going to be looking at is this transition and this click effect, how we get from one page to another, and also the way that this part fills in the screen. And as you can see now, as we click and hold, the bars come up and then it moves into the next page. So there's some really interesting animations there that I think will be really nice to recreate. So let's go into the sketch file that I've created, and the reason for me doing the sketch file was just to kind of give me some direction for where I was going to go with this and how it was going to work. So basically we have our home screen here with our click function on the enter button. Once you click the enter, you will then do this transition. This will move up, and then we will basically transition seamlessly into the next page. So, jumping into Webflow. Now what I've actually done is I've already started to populate this Webflow project just to kind of speed things up a little bit. So let's get into the first part. Now, what we need to look at first of all is this header image. So, let's go into the panel, let's drop a div in, let's call this hero parent, and we want to set the width to 100%, we want to set the height. Now let's just go back to the design and have a little look. It's about 70%, so we want to set this to 70%, and then what we want to do is we actually want to set this to absolute. Now we can see that div. The thing is it's upside down right now, so what we need to do is we need to position this to the bottom. And now we have got that div at the bottom. Now going back to this example, what we really need to do is we need to have a look. Let's just turn this off. We really need to have a look at how this movement works here, and it's not just like a move up, it's more of a reveal. So for me, automatically I can see that looks like there's basically a div behind that that is basically clipping that movement. So this is going to be set to overflow hidden, and then what we're going to do is we're going to drop in another div, and we're going to call this BG image. Now, what we're going to do here again is width 100%, height 100%, and then we are going to set the position to relative, and then we are going to go down and we're going to drop our image in. Cover, center, no repeat. So let's just have a little look, make sure we're all good. Yes, we have our image in, it is now working well. Now the next part that we need to look at is basically the text and the content area. So going into the next bit, now we have our hero parent and we have our background image. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create another div and drop it inside. But what I'm going to do to the hero parent is I'm actually going to set this to flex, and then I'm just going to center. Now at the moment we have this div and it's pushing that content to the side. So all we need to do with this is we need to give it a class. We're going to call this content parent, and all we're going to do with this is just select it to absolute, and that will now put that straight in the middle where we need it. Now what we need to do is we need to set this to overflow hidden, and again going back to design, what we need to look at is how this bar is revealed from there, the pink bar. So that's being clicked off by an overflow hidden. So going into Webflow again, we've set that content parent to overflow hidden, and now what we need to do is we need to drop a heading in. Now from what I can see, this looks to be behind this element. So let's go to the z-index and change the z-index, and now we have that in front. So I'm going to change the copy, enter, and now we have our copy, which is good progress. So next parts would be looking at how we create the outline on the text. Now the simplest way to do this is to do this by CSS. So we're going to go into the control panel, we're going to get an embed, and then what we're going to do with this is use this snippet of code that I have here, and I will drop all of these bits of code into the project comments and into the files that I'm uploading. So what we need to do now is we need to open style brackets, and then we need to close style brackets, and then what we need to do is we need to basically target this class with the class of the title. So let's go back to the title and let's give this a class. So we're going to call this hero 1, and then we need to go back to the embed, and all we need to do is just change this hero 1. We need to look at these parameters on the CSS, text, stroke, color, and we want to change that to FFF, which is white, and then we also want to bump the stroke width up to 2 pixels. And now once we save, as you can see, it is updated. Great, we're moving through this nicely. Into the next section is looking at how we implement this bar. So going to our layers panel, we want to look at the content parent. This is where it's holding our hero, and what we want to do is we just want to drop another div in here. Now it's crucial from what we said earlier why the reason we set this, and then what we can do is basically give it a width of 100% and give it a height in pixels, and then what we need to do is set this to absolute, and now this will fall straight into place. So we just need to do a little bit of sizing, just make sure it fits well, and then we need to just go in and change the color. So now we have our block in, and obviously that block is covering over the text. Now one other thing that we should probably just do is just bump the Z index up, make sure that that is all good. Now, I didn't give that a class, so let's just quickly give that a class. Overlay text. And now we can get on to building out the interactions. Now, there's one other thing that we need to do, and that would be to actually drop a link block in here. Now, what we can do is we can either drop it here and drop our content inside. I just need to move the position of that. So now we have our link block in, and this is just going to help us direct to the next page. Now what I will do on this link is give it a class, and that will help us when we come into the next part of this process. So I'm just going to call this main link. So we have main link, and main link will be our trigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a mouse click, and we're going to start the animation, and what we're going to do is we're going to call this main click. So once we've got that, which is great, we're going to select our first element, which is the overlay. And we're going to move this down 100%. Let's set this to the initial state, so this is the starting point of the animation, and then we're going to move to 0%, and we're going to look at the animation types, and we're going to go in, out, quote, and we're going to go 0.8. So let's just check that out. Beautiful, it's working really nicely. And then what we need to do is we need to move again, and we need to go up now, up 100%. Ease, oh, I won't do ease, sorry, we go back to in, out, quote, and we'll do 0.8. And let's just have a little look. And that's already starting to look quite good. Now there's one thing I do, I kind of go back from there and I also have a look in here as well to see what it looks like. And I quite like that, and I think that looks pretty good. So on to the next part is looking at the text. So let's select the text. Now what we have to look at here as well is when these bars come in, if we go down, when these bars come in, once it goes up and reveals, the text actually goes, it disappears, and the same when it enters the page. So that's something we need to now do. So grabbing the text, I'm going to go back to the initial state, I'm going to set the opacity to 100%, sorry, because that is the starting point of that text. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the part where it moves here, and we're going to do opacity again. We're going to draw the opacity down, and what I think we're probably going to have to do is just put a little bit of delay on this so we don't see that movement, we don't see the opacity remove the text, so it's this completely seamless interaction. So let's click, boom, and the text is gone, and that is pretty much it for that part. So one other thing we need to do now is look at how we get the div part to actually activate by scrolling up here or doing the size. So if we look at this, it reveals, and we go into the next page. So what we need to do is we need to grab our hero parent, we need to go to move, oh no, actually we need to go to size, and this, the height that we originally set was 70%. And then what we need to do is we need to go size, we need to go, oh, we need to go 100%. We need to set that to, again, in, out, quote, and I'm really going to slow this bit down, so let's go 1.5, let's see how that looks. Beautiful, works really well. Let's just have another little look. Kind of moves up with there. I feel like this could potentially just slow down, so it kind of feels like it's all in one motion. So let's, yeah, I think that out one could be even smaller. So let's have a look again, and then let's click. Beautiful. Now they feel like they're both moving in that same motion, which is great. So that is the first part done, and we've already got quite far. Now, moving into the next stage is working out how we're going to trigger from one page to the next. Now, remember earlier we went and we give our link called main link. Now, we need to go into the project settings, and we go into the custom code, and there's a piece of JavaScript that I've added that basically determines how to freeze the browser before loading the next page, and here you can see the parameters of the timing. So what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to go main link, and then what you need to look at is this is the A tag, so it's targeting the A tag, and then it's targeting the class, so it's saying a.mainLink. So that is basically the link, and then what it's saying is set timeout for 2 seconds, and then obviously if you want to do 3, 4, 5, depending on how big your animations are going in and out of the pages. So if we save this and we go to publish, we just pop this open and we just have a look. Yeah, that's all good. And then go back into the designer. And what we need to do now is we need to go to our link. Let's just select it to go to the about, publish. Let's have a quick look just to check. Now what we need to do is we need to look here and let's see the link, but just wait and see how long it takes before that link is activated. Boom, and then it goes in. So it gives us time to basically be able to do that animation before we move into the next page. Now we might have to play around with this depending on how this goes, but let's just continue. So we're gonna go into the next page, which is about. Now what I'm gonna copy basically is I'm just going to copy this hero parent. And I'm going to go to about, and I'm just going to drop this in. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to go to the hero parent and we're going to duplicate this, because we're actually going to change the CSS on this now, because it's going to be slightly different. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go 1, 2, 3. Now that is basically the next page, because we're now going into a full header. And then what we're going to do is just get the overlay, and we're just going to hide it for a second. We're just going to go, and then what we're going to also do is go back, remove the overlay, and then we need to go back into the home page. We need to grab this HTML embed, we need to go here, to drop it in, just check, text is still good. Great, fantastic. Now, what we need to remember is that we've got a click function on this, and we need to remove that. So we're just going to go in and we're going to delete that trigger. Now what we need to do now is focus on the load interaction. So I've already created the load interaction, and what I'm going to do is I normally just select my body parent and then go in. So let's go into the load. And what we're going to do, these are already set out, and all I've got to do is just retarget these. So we're going to go through that process, but I haven't got to do all of the hard work that comes with it, as I've done this before. So what we're going to be moving is basically this overlay again. So we're just going to click here, change target, boom, move it down. Then we're going to go to opacity. Now the opacity is of the text. So I'm going to go change. Then I've got another opacity. Now the opacity of this needs to be, I don't know what opacity of that one actually is. Let's just get rid of that. So what I've done, I'm just going to delete these now actually. So what we need to do, we need to go to the hero. We're going to basically move this up 0. We're going to do in out quote, it was 8, and then we've got the hero text, so we're going to do opacity is, and then we're going to get the overlay again, and then we're going to go move, and then we're going to move it up 100%, and I'm going to go to the quote again. We did, I think it was 1 second, wasn't it? So let's try 1 second, let's just play that. Right, okay, so that overlay, we need that to delay again. So not the overlay, the text, we need to delay that again. So we just see it, so it needs to come slower. 6. Boom. Great. So let's try that. Let's see if that has worked in practice. Let's we're going to obviously load up that page. Great. Let's just have a look. There we go. Beautiful. And it's done. So that is it. That is basically the first tutorial. Now, obviously this is my first go, and you know, I've actually had to do about 8 or 9 takes of this video to get it right. I've actually failed quite miserably on a few, so just bear with me. Hopefully each lesson will get better, and we'll start to build on what we've started with and work on some more complex animations and interactions. But you know, first of all, thanks for watching, and if you like the video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you on the next lesson. Thanks.